Okay, Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another Wednesday. Yeah. So, in this online class, okay, in this online lecture today, okay, we are going to talk about another literary theory. Okay, and this theory is called structuralism. Okay, so if you can recall, okay, yesterday afternoon, we looked at a theory called formalism, right? Formalism, the core idea of formalism is in the word form. Form meaning recubento, right? Form meaning the shape of something. That is why the formalist ideas are all about, focus on the text, focus on the text. The text and nothing else, right? The text is independent. The text is independent from all extrinsic references. Okay, so you read a poem, for example, don't look at the author's biography, don't look at the historical setting, okay, and all of that. Just focus on the words on the page, right? Formalism is all about that. Structuralism moves away from that idea. Okay, structuralism is one concept, one theory that goes against formalism. Okay, so structuralism, the core idea of structuralism, is found in the word structure. Okay, structure meaning binaan, right? Something like the construction of something, right? So the root idea, the core idea of structuralism is this, right? If you focus on just the text, like what the formalists say, right? Focus on the text only, the words on the page, right? How do you know what those words mean? Okay, how do you derive meaning from those words? How do you figure out things like symbolism or imagery and so on? For all of those things, you still require external knowledge. Okay, so that is the core idea of structuralism. Let's get started. So, as always, remember, if you have any questions, if there's anything you want to ask, all right, feel free to just ask. Okay, feel free to um apa hold on. Sure. Okay. All right. So again, right, if there's anything that you don't understand, okay, anything that feels alien to you, okay, a lot of this will feel alien to you, okay, um, ask questions. Okay, click the raise hand icon, ask questions. You can unmute and ask question. You can type your questions or comments or answers or whatsoever in the message box. Okay, I will read those as well. Okay, let's begin. Okay, let's look at structuralism. Let's look at this. Okay, consider this. Okay, what is this? Let me ask you, what is this?
An apple.
An apple. Adib says it's an apple. What about the rest of you? Do you agree it is an apple? Okay, Joy says yes, it is an apple. Okay, most people would agree that this is a red apple. Okay, this is an apple, a red juicy apple. But a structuralist would say no, this is not an apple. Okay, this is not an apple at all. What is this then? Okay, this is not an apple. This is an image representing an apple. Okay, so this is not an actual apple. You cannot eat it. Okay, you cannot take a bite out of this, right? So a structuralist would say no, this is an image representing an apple. All right. Likewise, if you look at this, right, this is also an image, okay, roughly representing an apple, right? But you know, are these two apple representation the same? Nadia says no, it is not the same. Joy also says it's not the same. Why not? What's wrong with the other, this one? What's wrong? What's the difference?
The other apple is representing a logo.
All right, it is a logo. Nadia says it is a symbol for something else. Okay, what is it? It is also an image roughly representing an apple, but it carries a different meaning. Okay, what does it mean? What does this apple mean? It is a reference to a
Apple
brand,
company.
yeah, the Apple computer company, right? So this image here, it looks like an apple. It looks almost the same shape, right? One color is different, right? Okay, but we understand that this image, this representation of the apple, does not carry the same meaning. Okay, one, is an apple that you eat. The other is an apple that is very expensive, right? So an apple, the concept of an apple, however, can also carry different meaning on its own. Okay, say for example, an apple here can be a representative of the education profession, right? So you just search for an image of education. Okay, the word apple, the image of an apple is associated to it, right? Okay, so why is that? A teacher would tell you to eat an apple, stay healthy, and so on, right? Okay, perhaps that. Okay, so an apple is can represent the teaching profession, right? What else? What about in this picture here? Okay, in this gluten-free granola, apple can be a symbol of health as well, right? You see cuts of apple presented on this on the box of this food, right? There's also the idiom, right? What is the idiom associated with apples and health?
An apple keeps the doctor away.
Right, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? So the doctors are afraid of apples, right? No, no. What it means is you eat an apple, you stay healthy, right? You don't need to visit the doctor, right? On the other hand, the apple can also represent the idea of temptation or the idea of sin. Okay, how does that work, right? You take, for example, in the biblical story, right? Adam and Eve. The apa the Satan, right, disguised himself as a snake, right, and tempts Adam and Eve to eat the forbidden fruit, right? So in the biblical tradition, the forbidden fruit in heaven is an apple. Okay, it is representing that. So sin and temptation. You look at in Snow White, for example, in the Disney rendition of Snow White. What does the stepmother, disguised as a witch here, gives Snow White, right? She gives her an apple, right? Okay, and she tempts Snow White with this red, juicy apple, which Snow White eats and then falls into a coma, right? Okay, so an apple there is a symbolic of this idea of temptation. Okay, so when we look at all of this, right, when we think about uh, you know what common things that we see all around us can represent. Okay, so in our example here is the apple. Okay, can represent the object, the fruit, an apple, right? It could also refer to a logo of a company, right? And apple can also represent certain themes, right? It can come to symbolize different ideas. Okay, how do we get these ideas, right? Where do they come from? Okay, how do we associate an apple, a red apple, red juicy apple, to temptation? How do we associate an apple to the idea of health, all right, or education for that matter? Okay, so this is the core concept of structuralism. You want to know, you want to figure out the underlying structure of things. Okay, you want to figure out how we as people, okay, make association between image, object, image, words, object, and greater meaning. Okay, now this is very useful because yesterday afternoon we talked about formalism and we also looked at a short story, Hills Like White Elephants, right? And in that short story, you have a lot of symbolism, right? So in this lecture, I'm going to make some references to Hills Like White Elephants as well. Okay, I'm going to look at some symbols from there. Okay, so here's the table of content for today's lecture. We're going to I'm going to introduce to you the concept of structuralism. We will look at the founding father of modern linguistics, which is also the person who starts semiology, okay, or the study of symbols. Okay, we'll look at his idea, semiology, and then how that transforms into another theory, which is called semiotics. Okay, we will look at semiotics in popular culture. Okay, and then more specifically, we'll figure out how they apply to literature. Okay, and as a closer example, we will also look at Hills Like White Elephant again. Okay, and then we will conclude our lecture. Okay, compared to formalism, which we talked about yesterday, okay, structuralism becomes more fun. Okay, it becomes more fun because it is like piecing together a puzzle. Okay, it is like figuring out what certain things mean and so on. Okay, it is like solving a mystery, if you will. Okay, and that whole process of solving a mystery, figuring out what this could mean, that could mean, and so on, right? That is a process called hermeneutics. Okay, but we're not going to talk about hermeneutics here because nanti lagi panjang this lecture. All right. Okay, so introduction to structuralism. So structuralism is a 20th century intellectual movement asserting that human culture, language, and behavior cannot be understood in isolation. Okay, so you want to figure out culture, for example. Okay, cultural practices, cultural references, and so on. It cannot be understood on its own. Okay, you have to look at things like history, you have to look at practices, you have to look at common understanding, and so on. Okay, folk knowledge, tradition, and so on. Yeah, culture must be analyzed as part of a larger overarching relational system or structure. So there is an overarching system, an overarching structure, right? That where all of these things are built on. Okay, structuralism argues that beneath the surface level reality lies a universal hidden pattern that dictates how meaning is generated. Okay, so there is an underlying structure, okay, that allows us to understand the symbols we find in Hills Like White Elephant, for example. Okay, so that's what structuralism is trying to figure out. So the man whose theory this is based upon, all right, is the Swiss linguist and philosopher Ferdinand de Saussure. Okay, Ferdinand de Saussure is also recognized as the father of modern linguistics because traditional linguistics is what we saw yesterday in formalism and new criticism. Okay, it's all very isolated. It is all focused on semantics and all that, right? Ferdinand de Saussure says you have to understand that reality, okay, that the moment, the current moment, okay, that culture also influences meaning making in language. Okay, so where do we find the meaning of language? It is not just in dictionary. Okay, it is also in you know in our environment. Okay, it is also in pop culture, it is in media. Okay, it is in inside jokes. All right, it is in memory, it is in history, and so on. Okay, all of those things help us better understand or give meaning to things. Okay, so he introduces this idea. Okay, I'm not gonna explain so much on this, okay? But I'll explain very briefly. He introduces this idea of langue, okay, which is which is the language systems, okay? So langue is basically language as how the textbook portrays it. Okay, you think of langue as being language found in dictionary. Okay, so this word means this word means that, and so on. All right. On the other hand, we also have parole. Okay, parole is language as it is used in real life. Okay, so these two are different things. Langue is basically the idealized version of a language, a dictionary depiction of a language. Okay, parole is how language is actually used in real life, and these two things are not always the same. Okay, they're not always the same. Let me give you an example. Okay, uh, let me give you an example. let's say let's say we take the word okay, are you listening? Okay, you're all here, pay attention. Let's take the word peach, for example. Okay, or the plural form peaches. Okay, what is the dictionary definition of peaches? Okay, it is a fruit, right? A very uh, a very juicy, luscious fruit, right? Okay, but now let's think about parole. Okay, language as it is used. When you use a peach emoji, okay, when you message your friends, okay, what does that mean?
Something sexual?
What does it mean? Okay, it is also a luscious, juicy fruit. Okay, cuma grows on a different tree. All right. So that is an example of langue and parole. Okay, langue is the dictionary definition of, say, peaches. It's a fruit. Okay, parole. Okay, the is basically how we tend to interpret the meaning of certain things. Okay, the word peaches can mean something else. All right, likewise, other that other blasted purple emoji, right? Okay, so apa? So that is langue and parole. Okay, put it simply. Okay. Okay, so what Saussure introduced was this concept, this theory he calls semiology. Okay, semiology is basically talking about the arbitrariness of signs. Okay, how the words that we use in real life, okay, does not necessarily uh, relate, okay, to things as they exist in the real world. Okay, so he says basically words are signs composed of a physical trigger, which is called the signifier, and a mental concept, which is the signified. Okay, so the link between them is completely arbitrary. Arbitrary. Okay, arbitrary meaning meaningless. Okay, or does not really connect. All right, so have a look at this. Okay, say for example the signifier is the word dog. Okay, so in the English language, okay, in the English language, when I say dog, okay, generally we mean this dog. Okay, but when we look at the word dog is the signifier, and the animal that is portrayed in this picture is the signified. Okay, so meaning when I say the word dog, I mean this, right? I'm referring to this animal. Okay, I'm referring to this animal, right? Now, but when we look at that word dog, okay, it does it has very little relation to the features of this animal, right? What's the sound that a dog makes, right? The dog barks, right? It goes gong 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 gong, right? Woof woof woof, and so on, right? It doesn't go dog 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 like a Pokemon, right? It doesn't go, Pikachu Pikachu, right? Okay, so the name that we give to this animal, to these objects, to objects around us and so on, okay, uh, is kind of meaningless. Okay, so when we say, so the word dog, right, does not really relate to features of this animal. It does not relate to the sound that this animal make. It does not relate to any physical features of this animal. Okay, all right. So that is what he means by arbitrariness. Okay. So when I say another feature of arbitrariness is that when I say the word dog, okay, it is not necessarily that this image of a dog that appears in your mental concept, in your imagination. If I ask you to close your eyes and imagine a dog, right? What kind of dog appears in your mind? It could be, a German Shepherd, right? It could be a golden retriever, right? A Pomeranian, right? It could be, a Rottweiler, right? How do you spell shepherd? Oh, shepherd, right? German Shepherd. Okay, it's not necessarily this particular dog. If I say the word cat, for example, what kind of cat appears in your head? Okay, is it is it a, what color of a cat appears in your head? Is it orange? Is it white? Is it a black cat? Okay, so across different people, okay, when we mention a cat, okay, what appears, the mental image that appears in your head is not always the same, right? It's not always the same. So connection between signs, between signifier and the signified is arbitrary in that sense. It is meaningless. It relates basically to a general concept. Okay, so when we say dog, you mean what we generally mean is an animal with four legs. It's furry and so on. It goes woof woof, right? But the specific kind of dog is really not stated in that word dog, right? We, in our heads, in our imagination, we think of different things. Okay, likewise, if we use the the Malay translation of the word uh, dog, right? Anjing, referring to a dog, right? Or what else can the word refer to? Okay, uh, it also carries different meaning, right? Okay, anjing obviously by right supposed to mean the same thing, right? But when we say anjing, or the more colloquial uh apa, refined version of this word, right? Anjir, meaning what? It's supposed to mean the same thing, right? But what does it mean instead? What can it mean instead? It can also be used as a curse word, right? Okay, if you play a lot of Mobile Legends ke, okay, against Indonesian players, right? This kind of word keluar lah, right? Okay, so so that is the arbitrariness of words that we use. okay, the connection is not straightforward. All right, certain things can mean different things. Okay, so when we say, for example, uh, for example, in the hills like white elephant, right, the girl is referring to, she says, these hills look like white elephants. Okay, it's not necessarily just meaning that, oh, the shape of them is, it looks like an elephant that is colored white, right? It could have some hidden meaning behind it, right? So referring to what we talked about yesterday, like a heavy burden, okay, and things that are hard to get rid of, right? So we understand these references because words don't always mean what they say on the can. Yeah. Okay, let's look at semiotics. Okay, semiotics is an evolution of semiology. Okay, it is introduced by an American philosopher, Charles Sanders Peirce. Okay, he approached semiology using logic instead. Okay, so he argued that meaning requires a three-part relationship. The first part is called representament. Okay, that's not a misspelling. Representament, which is the signs. Okay, representament is the form in which the sign takes. Okay, what shape does it take, right? It requires an object, so the actual reality item, okay, which the sign refers to, and then it requires an interpretant, okay, the effect or understanding or mental translation generated in the mind of the receiver. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, so if we go back to dog just now, okay, we go back to dog, signs require three things, right? He says a representament, which is the word, right? It requires the actual object, which is a dog must exist in real life, okay, for us to know what a dog is, right? And it requires interpretant, right? Interpretant meaning you, okay? Hearing the word dog, right? And then imagining this dog coming to mind, okay? Or a mental image of a dog, okay, or whatsoever, okay. Now, basically, if you as a person have never seen a dog in real in your life, right? You've never seen a dog in real life. If you've never seen a picture of a dog, right? Someone says dog, okay, you don't know what that means, okay. You can't imagine in your head what that word is, okay. So likewise, if I say if I say, for example, the word okay, this is gonna sound very, very, very weird, right? Okay, if I say the word Borg, right? No, not Borg, not Borg. Uh, Borg still has meaning to you, okay? So but if I say the word okay, if I say this word, right? If I say this word, uh, okay, if I say this word Ferengi, right? If I say the word Ferengi, okay, how many of you know what that is? Okay, what what does it mean? Okay, what is a Ferengi? Okay, does anyone in this class know what a Ferengi is? Okay, obviously you don't, all right, because you don't watch Star Trek. Okay, uh, all right. So Ferengi is an alien from Star Trek. So if I mention the word Ferengi, I say close your eyes and imagine a Ferengi. Okay, you're not going to be able to imagine it, right? Because you've never seen Star Trek before. Maybe you have never heard of the word Ferengi before. You've never seen an image of a Ferengi. How can you imagine what a Ferengi looks like, right? So if I say the word Ferengi, you cannot interpret that word because you've never seen it. You do not have a point of reference. Okay, Now, if I say dog, on the other hand, if I say dog, right, you have seen a dog before in real life. You have seen a picture of a dog. So you have a point of reference. Now, the object in this semiotic, right, does not even have to exist in real life. Likewise, if I say the word unicorn, okay, if I say the word unicorn, do you know what a unicorn is? Can you imagine? Can you close your eyes and imagine a unicorn in your head? Yeah, it's a horse with a horn, right? Okay, it's a horse with a horn. Okay, and so on, right? Rainbow colored, whatever. It could be white, could be rainbow colored, right? Okay, and so on. But do unicorns exist in real life? Okay, they don't. Okay, okay. Spoiler alert: they don't. Okay, if you okay, they don't exist in real life, but we understand the concept of a unicorn, right? We have seen pictures. Drawing artist interpretation of a unicorn. We have seen My Little Pony. Okay, so the concept of a unicorn is something that we can imagine. Okay, so when I say unicorn, a horse with a, that's a poorly drawn unicorn, yeah, a horse with a with with a horn can appear in your head. Okay. All right. So that is semiotics. All right. So another example of semiotics is we can look at a traffic light. Okay. So for example, okay, the red light at a traffic light, right? What does that mean? Okay. The red light at a traffic light, okay, is a signifier, meaning that you have to stop the car, right? You're gonna have to stop at traffic light, right? You see the red light, you know that uh, what that red light means is that you need to stop. You cannot just go, otherwise, you can get into an accident, right? So an object from this interpretation is that, you know, you stop the car, okay, at the light. Okay, hang on. This example is kind of bad. Yeah, I kind of like the unicorn example better. Gonna have to change this. Okay. Um, the three types of sign. Okay, so Peirce also categorized signs into three types. Okay, there is the symbol. Okay, the symbol has no logical or physical link to their meaning. Okay, it relies entirely on cultural learning and conventions. Okay, so take this one for example. What does this symbol mean? What is this red symbol? What does it mean? Joy says no enter. Okay. Uh, okay, is that correct? You all agree? It means, have you ever seen this red sign? Right? It's the no entry sign, right? Okay, you do not enter, right? No entry. So you're driving around the car, right? You see this sign, so you cannot go that way, right? You can't go that way, right? It's a one-way road or something, right? No entry. Okay, but what does it mean? Look at the sign. Okay, what is the relation between this red sign with a white bar to not being able to enter? Okay, there is no connection, right? You only know that this sign, this symbol means no entry because you learn it in driving school, right? Or your parents tell you, okay, you see this symbol, okay, you cannot drive through this, right? Okay, yeah, maybe your parents tell you that, okay, when they're teaching you how to drive, right? Okay, you have to learn these things, right? Through culture, through apa, driving school or whatsoever. Okay, so that's what this means, right? So this is a symbol. Okay, this is a symbol. The other type, the second type of signs is an icon. An icon resembles its object physically. Okay, so for example, what does this sign mean? What does this sign mean? This is an example of an icon. Okay, slippery road, okay, or it could mean slippery floor, right? Or you're gonna trip, right? You're gonna trip on this. Kan, if at a restaurant or at the mall, and they mop the floor, right? They put this sign, right? How do you know what is the connection between this sign and the meaning? Can you see the connection between this sign and the meaning? What do you see here in this yellow triangle?
People sleeping.
Yeah, this guy he's slipping on the wet floor, right? Oh, dia macam jatuh, right? So that is an icon, okay? An icon resembles the physical object. Okay, so you step on the floor, you could fall down, right? So that it is pictured in this sign, right? Whereas the no entry sign is completely arbitrary. There is no connection, right? It doesn't show. No, there's another no entry sign which can be considered as an icon. Okay, what's the other no entry sign? Okay, the other no entry sign is this. Okay, there's a guy holding a rifle. Okay, and then the other guy, oh, get shot, right? Oh, like that. Yeah, very dramatically getting shot, right? Okay, that is also a no entry sign, right? That one is an icon. Again, well, what does it mean? You enter here, you get shot, right? But we don't use this for the road, right? For road signs, we don't use this. Okay, why not? Can you imagine if you go through the you go through you enter through no entry road, and then the police just shoot you. Okay, don't understand. You don't want to give that impression, right? Okay, so that's another. This is an icon, okay, and this one is a symbol. All right. The last category of sign is called an index. Okay, an index is the evidence of object, okay, showing a direct or causal physical connection. For example, you're driving around your neighborhood, all right, and you see smoke. Okay, what is that? You see large billowing smoke. What do you assume from the smoke? There's a fire. Maybe there's a house that's on fire, right? You nampak, oh, black smoke coming out, right? Ush, what's going on? Okay, is there must be a fire somewhere, right? One of these houses must be on fire, right? Okay, so that is an index. All right, you don't if you're driving around, you see smoke, you don't just think, oh, there's smoke, coming out of just appearing by itself. Okay, you don't think that, right? You make the connection that if there is smoke, there is probably something that is on fire somewhere. Okay, so the smoke is an index. Okay, it indicates a something's going on, right? Okay, it indicates a fire, for example. All right. Okay, do you understand so far, class? Do you understand so far before we move on to what's the next part? And pop culture. Okay, so let's look at pop culture here. Okay, so another a French theorist named Roland Barthes, okay, takes this concept of semiotics, okay, this interpretation of signs and symbols and so on, and he figure out how to use it, okay, to interpret culture, to interpret advertisements and so on. Okay, so the French theorist Roland Barthes expanded this theory by applying semiotic to mass culture, fashion, and media. Okay, he argued that everyday objects, images, and social practices carry hidden ideological meaning. Okay, that make cultural constructs look natural and permanent. This is Roland Barthes, right? Every time I see a picture of Roland Barthes here, right? Um, have you ever watched? Better Call Saul? Yeah, have you ever watched Better Call Saul? All right, on Netflix, right? Better Call Saul or apa tu? Breaking Bad. Okay, I swear to you, right? This guy looks like Saul Goodman. Okay, so anyway, so what does Roland Barthes do? Okay, he takes this idea of semiotics, okay, and he applies it to advertisements and cultural practices and images and so on. Okay, so look at this. He says there are two levels of signification. Okay, there is the denotation and connotation, he says. So a denotation is the literal, obvious, or dictionary definition of a sign. Okay, so for example, you see here an image of what here? What do you see in this picture? It's a rose. It's a red rose, right? It's a red rose. Now, so that is a denotation. You see this picture is a picture of a rose. This is a flower. This is a specific type of plant. All right, it is a red flower, right? But then there's another layer to signs here. Okay, the other layer is called connotation. Connotation is the cultural or socio-historical or emotional association that is attached to this picture. Okay, to images, to things, essentially. All right. So you see a rose, a picture of a rose, for example. It is a rose. That's the denotation. It's a rose. It's a flower. But what does the flower mean? What is the connotation of a flower, of a red rose, right? A red rose can mean something romantic, right? It could mean passion, right? So you give a rose to someone you love, right? Okay, you give a bouquet of roses to your wife, for example, on your anniversary. Okay, you're all not married yet. Okay, but that is connotation. It is feelings. It is cultural. It is culture. It is historical ideas that we attach to things. Okay. Do you understand, class? Do you understand this? Paham ya? All right. Okay. Good. All right. Now think about this. Okay. I want you to think about Maggie. Do you know what Maggie is?
Yes.
Yeah, you know what Maggie is, right? I'm sure student man, okay? Students tidak tahu what Maggie is, right? Maggie, ramen, instant noodle, right? Okay. Now, when we think about Maggie, right? What comes to mind? If I ask you to imagine Maggie, right? You might think of something like this, right? Okay. Do you imagine this Maggie cup noodle, right? Okay. This is generally what Maggie looks like, right? But have you seen advertisements of Maggie? Have you seen advertisements of Maggie? Poster ke apa? Ads on the internet, on YouTube, whatsoever. What does it look like? It looks like this, right? It looks like this. All right. They don't show you this, okay? But they show you this. All right. Look at that. It even has a caption there, okay? What does it say? Maggie, kita ciptaan bersama, right? Now, here is what Roland Barthes is trying to point out here. Okay, when you look at advertisements, advertising, and so on, okay, has these two levels: denotation and connotation. Okay, denotation is that they are showing you the product, right? They're showing you Maggie, okay, or the ideal version of a Maggie, right? When you masak Maggie tu, you open, doesn't come with the egg or with the tofu and vegetable, semua tu, right? It comes it comes looking like this, right? But they don't show you this. They don't show you this cup noodle. They show you this, right? The ideal version of Maggie. That is the denotation. Another level is connotation. When you look at this advertisement here, what feelings do you get? What feelings do you associate with this advertisement? It's not just hunger and craving, right? It's not just hunger and craving. What other emotions do you get? Joy says
Warm.
togetherness. Atika says warm. Yeah, warm. What gives you that warm feeling? It's not the hot water from the Maggie, right?
From the family togetherness.
Right. Okay. It gives you this idea, this image of a family cooking together, makan Maggie together, right? It gives you, but it relies on this. Look at this family, right? Fully intact, right? The father is not an absent father. Okay, they're not divorced or anything, right? Okay, look at this, right? Look at this. Look at the kids. They are smiling, so happy to eat Maggie for dinner, right? Bestnya. Okay, all right. So this is connotation. Okay, this is connotation. Roland Barthes basically says, especially in advertising, in modern advertising, okay, the denotation, the product that they are selling you is very small. Okay, it's a small part of the adverts. The bigger part of the advert is the connotation, the feeling that they want you to associate with the product. Okay, so in this case, when you think of Maggie, you think of togetherness. You think of family. You think about that warm feeling. Okay, so when you yearn for for a family moment, you think about, oh, let's cook Maggie together. Okay, or when you look at all the products of instant noodle on the supermarket, you are more likely to choose Maggie because it reminds you of family and so on. Okay, that is connotation. All right, so connotation in advertisements, right? In advertising, connotation is a primary tool used to manufacture desire. Okay, so while an advertisement show a product literally, that is the denotation, like the Maggies now, right? Its commercial success depends entirely on the secondary cultural and emotional meaning, that is connotation. Okay, the connotation that it attaches to that image, okay, to the product, right? Advertisers intentionally construct images that so that highly charged visual signs quickly bypass a simple description and transform into lifestyle concepts, status symbol, and cultural values. Look at this advertisement here. Okay, what do you think it is selling? Okay, what do you think the product is? It's a perfume. Thank you, Joy. It's a perfume, right? It is this cologne perfume for men. But you see, most of the advertisement, okay, most of the advertisement, you can say, 80% of the ad here is what? It doesn't feature the perfume. It right? It features Chris Hemsworth here, right? What is it saying, right? Right? Joy says, if you use it, you will look like him, right? This could be you, right? This could be you, Adib. Do you use Hugo Boss, Adib? Right? Okay. If you use Hugo Boss, you too could be Chris Hemsworth, right?
Yes.
You wanna be this icon of masculinity like Chris Hemsworth, right? So you better use Hugo Boss, right? Why don't you use Hugo Boss? You look like Chris Hemsworth, right? Perfume Arab, okay. Perfume. You're gonna perfume Arab, eh? Just why he looks like Lawrence of Arabia instead. Okay, so so yeah, that's the connotation there, right? You can look at most advertisements will be like this, right? You look at a car advertisement, all right? Look at the advertisement for Land Rover, for example, kan Land Rover dia tunjuk apa? The Land Rover tu macam out in the wilderness, kan? Okay, the guy looks like apa? Chris pula. Um, apa? The guy looks like Crocodile Dundee or something, kan? Dia macam wild man, right? Okay, in the Land Rover, kan? And Land Rover, Range Rover car, right? So it's selling you this lifestyle. It's telling you, oh, you buy a Range Rover, you too could be this macho, right? And go off-roading and so on, go into the wild wilderness and so on, right? But most of the time, people who buy Range Rover, they you're not gonna drive your Range Rover into the into the jungle, right? Come on, you can go to the mall, okay? You can, you can challenge your Range Rover, going up the parking. Okay, that's about it. Okay, but they're selling you that lifestyle, right? They want you to create that association. Okay, so how does this apply to literature, right? Semiotics shifts the focus away from what the text mean to how the text is constructs meaning. Okay, so essentially, what semiotics give us, what structuralism gives us, is the study of symbolism. Okay, looking for symbols in the text, right? So that's essentially what structuralism gives us. So instead of treating a poem or a novel as a unique expression of the author's inner soul, okay, the semiotic critic would view literature as a complex machinery or cultural codes. So you focus more on cultural meaning of things, yeah. So the text is treated as a fabric of sign, and that can only be understood because the reader and the writer share an underlying system of rule, and that is cultural understanding. Okay, so you and the writer both share this cultural understanding, and that's why you can understand what those symbols mean. Okay, we go back to the idea of the peaches just now, right? Okay. If you use this emoji, right? You use this emoji for with whom? Maybe to, when you are texting your friend, right? You might use this to communicate, right? But would you use this same emoji, say, with your parents? If you're texting your parents, okay, why not? Why not? Okay, okay, but you say it seems rude, all right, but there's another reason for it, okay. um your have you ever, say, for example, no, I'm guessing here that your parents are, much older than me. All right. Okay. So, have you ever sent, let's say, emojis, right? And then your parents don't understand what it means. Okay. Has that ever happened? Yeah. Right. Okay. So why does that happen? Is because you and your parents might not share the same understanding of culture. Okay, you are of a different generation. Okay, which is why if you send the picture of of a peach, right? They don't know what it means. Okay, if your if your parents use this, okay, your parents, Adib, if your parents ask you, apa, nanti singgah kedai beli one of this, okay, one packet of this, alright, one no, one packet of this, right? Okay, it might be very innocent, right? They might just ask you to, it might just be a shopping list, right? But you might be laughing, right, at the use of the emoji, right? Because you have a different understanding, right, of what it means. Okay. Okay, okay, so Roland Barthes also talks about how semiotic is used in literature. Okay, but he goes through a few other concepts, but I'm not going to look at all of the concept that he proposed. I'm going to look at two. Okay, two where it really applies uh, to literature. Okay, the first one is called the semic code. Okay, semic code isolates specific descriptive details inside a scene, such as a character's clothing, their gestures, their accents, their room decoration, and so on, to harvest cultural connotation. So a lot of things working together to project one called connotation. Okay, one emotion, one impression. Okay, and this acts as a collection of seams. Okay, not memes. Yeah, seams, which is a unit of connotative meaning. All right. So when these tiny details cluster together over multiple chapters, they construct a stable character portrait. Okay, setting or atmosphere without the author having to tell you specifically. All right. So as an example, you look at James Bond, right? Do you know what James Bond is? Right? I'm sure you do. I'm sure you know what James Bond is, right? And here in this picture here, you see Pierce Brosnan, the best James Bond, right? Um, Look at James Bond. Look at how he is presented. Okay, why does James Bond wear a tuxedo? Okay, all right. Why does James Bond wear a tuxedo? What is it supposed to represent, right? When you see James Bond dressed in a tuxedo, a black tux, right? He represents, yes, high society. He represents sophistication, right? He represents someone very attractive, right? Okay, so that's what the tuxedo is supposed to represent. That is a semic code. Okay, so when you think about it, right? Spies in real life. Okay, spies in real life. Do they walk around in tuxedos? Do they look like James Bond? No, right? Okay, a CIA agent, a special branch agent, a Mossad agent. They're not gonna look like that, right? They're not going to wear black tuxedo walking around like that, right? Okay, martini, shaken not stirred, apa benda kan? Okay, they're not gonna ask you that, right? They don't look like that, right? James Bond does not look like what a real spy in real life look like, right? He is a character in this fiction, right? In this story. And because of that, he is a fictional character, all right? He can be presented with these semic codes, okay? The the black tuxedo and so on, right? Okay, it is supposed to signal certain messages to the viewers. Here's a guy, he's dressed in this tuxedo, he looks sophisticated, he looks high class, right? Uh, so it's supposed to represent those ideas. Yeah, the writer, you don't need a narrator to tell you this is James Bond, he is high class, he is sophisticated, and so on. Okay, you do not need a narrator voice telling you that. You can look at how he is dressed and you make that assumption. Okay, the costume that he wears gives you this impression. Okay, so this is a semic code. All right, we see it in literature as well, description of the characters and so on. Right, another level of semiotic here is symbolic code. Okay, so symbolic code moves beyond the localized character traits, okay, to map out a deeper or broader subconscious structure of the narrative. Okay, it is often organized around binary opposition. Okay, binary opposition meaning two opposites, yeah, two opposite concepts facing each other. Okay, so Barthes is heavily influenced by psychoanalysis and so on. Okay, denoting this narrative tensions. Okay, so symbolic code tracks how these opposing forces shift, balance, or collapse throughout the story, throughout the text. Right. For example, how many of you watch Star Wars? Okay, do you watch Star Wars? Have you ever seen pictures or posters of Star Wars? All right, what do we see here? right? What do we see in posters of Star Wars, right? You have the Jedi's on one side, and you have the Sith Lords on the other side, right? Look at the lightsabers that they are using, right? The Jedi's use blue lightsabers, green lightsabers. The Sith will use red, right? Is there a meaning behind that, right? It is, you apply symbolic code, right? It's really the struggle, the cosmic battle between good and evil. Okay, the blue or green Jedi's, right, with their lightsabers, blue or green representing the side of good, the side of light, right? And then on the other side, you have the Sith with their red lightsabers, right? Denoting what? The forces of darkness, the evil forces, and so on, right? It is the struggle between good and evil. Do you think it's just color choices because it looks nice? Okay. No, there is a symbolic meaning behind that. Okay. That appeals to our understanding at a subconscious level. Okay. Let's look at hills like white elephant here. Okay, hang on. Do you understand so far, class? Do you understand what I've talked about here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you understand. Right? But it's a more fun concept to look at than whatever formalism was telling us yesterday. All right. Okay. Uh, because literature is more fun when you make connections to bigger things. Okay, to culture, to history, to the background knowledge that you have. Okay, if you look at literature like an isolated island, like what the formalist is telling you to do, okay, then you lose a lot of these valuable things. All right. Okay, Hills Like White Elephants by Ernest Hemingway. Yesterday afternoon, we looked at this short story, right? If we look at this short story through this idea of structuralism, okay, we will hunt for all the symbolic meaning of things in the story, right? So, for example, their luggage, all right, their luggage that has stickers of all the different hotels that the couple has been to, right? What does this tell us, right? So I asked you this question actually yesterday, right? It means that they have traveled all over the place, all over Europe, right? They have been living this kind of backpacking lifestyle, right? The train station, the hills that looks like white elephant, the train tracks, right? Some of you yesterday told me that the significance of that is the train tracks, meaning that they are parting ways, right? They are at a point in their life where they have to make a decision which path they want to take, right? Which is why the train station is the platform station where they're having this argument, okay, sits in between two train tracks, right? Going in different directions, right? So which path will they take? Okay, referring to the pregnancy, right? We can also decode Hills Like White Elephant even further, right? Look at the setting, the environments. Okay, one side of the train station is described as being very barren, very dry, right? And the other side is a fertile green pasture, right? So two possible future that they might have, okay, depending on their decision, okay. And then there is also something hidden in the language that the characters use. um, I asked you about this yesterday, right? Why is it that the man say, it's your choice, it is up to you, right? The man says it is a simple operation, but it is your decision, right? It keeps telling the woman that, right? Okay, the man is trying to push the responsibility of that decision to the woman in this case, right? He says that it is up to her, but actually he's also trying to direct her towards certain decision, right? Keeps telling her, but he keeps, tekan-tekan, right? Pressuring her, saying that it is a simple operation. It's a simple operation, right? I know lots of people have done it, right? But at the end, it's up to you. It's up to you. It's up to you, right? Okay. So he is using he's using his language, okay, to basically give her this illusion of freedom, but in truth, he is pressuring the woman. He is pressuring the girl towards a particular decision, right? Anything else you want to add or ask about Hills Like White Elephant before we move on? Yeah, it's okay. Yeah? All right. Okay. All right. Let's go to our conclusion here. Okay. So, structuralism and semiotics reveal that meaning is never random. Okay. It is manufactured by invisible systems and codes. Okay. Our understanding, our feelings toward things, and so on. Okay. There is an underlying structure to that. Okay. By decoding science and cultural myths, we transform from passive consumer of media and literature into active, critical, analytical thinkers. Okay? To fully comprehend human culture, we look past individual components and study the overarching structure that connects them all. Next time you are at a supermarket looking at the different instant noodles to buy, okay, and if you see me Maggie, right, and you feel that the Maggie me gives you this feeling of family, this feeling of this attraction of warmth and so on, right, of togetherness. It might be the advertising that's working there. Okay. All right, so that is it for structuralism. Okay, do you have any questions, class? Any questions to ask? It's okay. All right, then that is it for today. If you need the